So this is an email I received from somebody, and I thought the answer would be of interest to others. So this person wrote, I have a problem that I can't solve on my own. So I thought it was good that they actually they actually tried to solve it on their own. Yeah. Many people don't even try that. They instantly write for advice. Yeah. But this person tried. So that's very good. And he says, I have observed the mind and found that it is dominated by thoughts about the future. Imagine that. Who else has that problem? Okay. So, why do we think so much about the future? I wonder sometimes if it's because we're dissatisfied with the present. We're looking for some kind of happiness. We're bored. We're dissatisfied. So somehow we'll have a better future and we'll just have to daydream and plan about it. Even if we're Dharma practitioners, the retreat I'm doing now, but I'm planning to do all these other retreats and studies in the future that are definitely going to make me happier. Okay. Or sometimes I think we spend a lot of time in the future in order to feel secure. Yeah, if we have a plan, then we think that, things are certain and there's security. That's wrong. Okay, but his concern, yeah, was with all these thoughts of the future, his meditative concentration is damaged. Yeah, and it's true, isn't it? You sit down to focus on your object, and the mind 2 seconds later is planning something else or worrying about something. Well, worry and planning have to do, you worry about the future, so what do? You plan instead. Then you worry that your plan's not going to work out, so you plan another plan, and then you worry some more about that one. Okay, so he says, I think these thoughts arise from the assumption that I will live for a long time. True, isn't it? All the plans for the future are assuming that we will have a very long life. I reflect that I have done a lot of negative karma since beginningless samsara, and it can ripen in any moment, and I can die even in an hour. Very true. Many people are dying today who thought that they had a long time ahead of them. But he says, yeah, and he's a practitioner, you can tell. However, I have noticed one kind of mind, which confidently tells me, of course you can die, but it's unlikely. The probability is there, but very small. So relax. Yeah. Anybody else tell themselves that? Yeah. Yeah, true. I could die today, but I've gone all the other days of my life when I could have died, and I haven't died during them. So there's a good chance I won't die today either. Okay, so let's just relax, chill out. Okay, so how can I solve this problem? And here's the interesting what he says. After all, from the point of view of Pramnavartika, I can't prove that I'm going to die today or tomorrow. But I can't refute it either. Okay, so he's done some study here and knows logic, and it's very true. We cannot prove we're going to die today or tomorrow, but we also can't disprove it. So there's many, many things in our life that we can't prove and we can't disprove. Yeah. So we make an assumption and hope it's a correct one. Yeah. But there's some things when we practice the Dharma that we are encouraged, like this, to believe that we will die or can die today or tomorrow, because it's helpful to our mind and for our practice. So there's many things that we cannot prove logically. This is one of them, okay? There's lots of them when you start thinking about it, that where the Lamrim will give some reasons to support a certain statement, but the reasons are not watertight, okay? So in the Lamrim, yes, there's reasons why everybody dies. There's reasons why everybody can die today. Okay, we've studied them. We know those reasons. One small thing can cause death. Yeah, lots of people die when they haven't expected to die. Okay, a slight change in circumstance can cause death because the body is so fragile. So there's reasons, and those reasons are true, why we could die today or tomorrow, but they aren't watertight, proving that we will. Okay. But still, it's valuable to meditate on those reasons and to think that it is helpful for our mind to think in that way. It helps our practice. But another thing that I've found often, will disrupt really thinking that I will die soon is the old feeling that if I actually confront my mortality, I'm going to panic. And it's going to be such a painful thought that I might die, and my whole ego identity is going to dissolve. And I have to separate from my friends and relatives and possessions and body and reputation and everything I've put so much into building up in this life, that the idea of leaving all of that, and so that I don't have an identity anymore. Without all that stuff, I don't know who I am. And that's scary. So it's easier to avoid that fear, avoid that panic by saying, well, I could, but I probably won't die. Yeah. Okay. Does that make some sense to you? Do you have that kind of thing too? Well, I've said to myself a lot, oh, I've kind of solved a lot of that stuff. I'm okay if I die suddenly. But when I really look, yes, I've created some good karma this life, but will I definitely have a good rebirth? Yeah. Is there any reasoning proving to myself that I've created enough and purified enough that I'll definitely have a good rebirth? There's no logic for that one that I can prove that with. Yeah. But my ignorance tries to prove it, and my ignorance says yes. So just relax, chill out. Yeah. Which is not a very helpful strategy for dealing with uncertainty. And okay, there's uncertainty in this life. It's hard to deal with, but we can manage. Uncertainty about what our next life is going to be, that one is much more difficult to deal with. Okay? And it causes fear. And so we want to avoid that fear because feeling fear is unpleasant. But when I check, what kind of fear is it that is so unpleasant? It's the old attachment to my own happiness kind of fear. It's not the Dharma fear of death. Yeah, which is why I think it's better not to say in the Dharma sense that when you meditate on death, you want to develop a fear of death, because we think fear of death, we go back to the old one, and then we don't want to experience that, so we don't think about it. Okay, but what it's talking about in Dharma is an awareness of the danger. Okay, so for me, avoiding fear, yes, my ego doesn't like that. Ignorance doesn't, wants to avoid fear at all costs. Awareness of the danger, that one my wisdom can get interested in. It's good to be aware of danger. When you're merging on the highway, you want to be aware of danger. Okay, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, you want to be aware of the danger of catching the virus. Okay, that one I can handle, and I think it's safe. So aware of the danger of a bad rebirth, that awareness is one that my mind is more receptive to generate than calling it the fear of death. Even it's the Dharma fear of death. Okay? So then I think, okay, what will give me that awareness of the danger of death that will motivate me to stop all this useless planning? Okay? And so I've had a few experiences where I've really, gotten some sense of the possibility of being born in an unfortunate rebirth. And that I find when I touch base with that becomes a good motivator. Because if I can die soon and find myself in one of those rebirths soon, then I better up my practice now. Okay. So the situations, one of them is every time I go to Dharamsala, watching the donkeys there. Okay, because in Dharamsala, so many of the buildings are built with stone that they load up on the donkey's back. The roofs are slate, which they load up on the donkey's back. There's gravel involved in construction, also loaded on the donkey's back. And these poor donkeys have to stand all day. They'll load the stuff on them, and then the people will wait until they're ready to move. Meanwhile, the donkeys are sitting there with this incredible heavy load. And you look in the donkey's eyes, and their eyes are totally spaced out, It's really, they're in pain, you can tell, but there's no awareness of being able to try and do anything about it. And then when the masters want them to move, they beat the donkeys, And Dharamsala is very hilly, so these donkeys have to go uphill, they have to go downhill on terrain that is not flat. It's so dangerous for them. And then they keep getting beaten. And when I look at the donkeys like that, then somehow it really touches me. And then if I think of having that kind of rebirth, yeah, I don't want that one. Another experience was, I think it was in Malaysia. Somebody took me to a zoo. Very interesting as a practitioner to go to a zoo, and see what was your previous rebirths and could be your future ones. And there was one parrot I saw, a big parrot with a big beak that was very colorful, and the feathers were all very colorful. So all the people wanted to see this parrot. But I looked in the parrot's eyes, and there was this sense that there was a living being that knew what was going on trapped in that parrot's body. So it wasn't like the donkey that's totally unaware of what's happening and can't do anything, but the parrot was like aware of their situation and couldn't do anything about it. So that also really got to me, in terms of compassion, but also in terms of, oh, I don't want to be born like that. Okay, so sometimes, I think connecting with these kinds of things of what could happen after death then makes the time of death, it doesn't matter so much whether you can prove it according to reasoning in Pramnavartika or not, but it's like death is definite and I don't know when it's going to happen and I need to plan for this situation. And since I don't know when, I need to start now. Okay? And I find that doing the death meditation in general, or thinking about future lives, is actually very calming for my mind. Because everything that I'm agitated about in this life is vastly reduced in importance when I think about death and rebirth. Yeah. And so that makes the mind quite clear right now, and it makes it easier to practice. So that's what I recommend.